In this video, you're going to start making some design decisions. And in that process, you'll be starting to write up your one-page game design document, as well as identify what your core game moment is going to be that you'll be prototyping in these early stages of development. Okay, I hope you guys are ready because we are starting to design our RPG. This is going to be fantastic. And you guys are going to look over the shoulder as Ben and I go about creating our game, and I'm going to show you what we do, how we work as a team, the decisions we make, but I want you to be doing that as well as we go through it. So as you can see on the screen here, we've got our one-page GDD. It's an excellent place to start, and I've created a template that you guys can go grab right now from our resources section and work along and start putting in any decisions that you make as we go. So if you don't have this already, pause the video, go grab this from our resources section. It's going to be a Google Docs. It's a great place to work, and I'll see you when you've got that. Okay, hopefully you've now got that and you're ready to roll. You've probably had a little bit of a read through it and pushed ahead, which is fine. But what I want to do before I get into that, I'm going to scroll down so you guys can see the section that we're doing in this video is just this. I don't want you to worry about the stuff below that just yet. We're not ready for that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I didn't want to bombard you with hours and hours of me talking about design theory. I want you to be getting your hands dirty, creating stuff in Unity as soon as possible. So we're just going to start with some high-level decisions and some bottom-up moment creation, and I'm going to explain both of those. But before I get into that, I want to show you that when I start working on designing a game, I take inspiration from games that I've played and books that I've read and things that I see out there in the world. I just want to show you a couple of examples of what I'm looking for and how I pull elements out of that inspiration. So for us, as our team, we've been interested in Diablo 3. This is from Diablo 3. And what we like about it is the camera perspective allows us to have a lot of control over how the world looks. And also from a combat mechanic perspective, there's lots of moments in Diablo where they just throw a whole bunch of enemies at you, and it allows you to feel very, very huge and powerful. You see this guy's just smashing and smashing, and there's lots of abilities and things that you can do like that big jump and splash damage. So from a creating a combat moment point of view and from a camera point of view, we liked how Diablo has structured itself here. It's not just Diablo 3 that I'm showing. Obviously, Diablo 1, 2, and 3 have defined this genre a lot. Jump over to another game that I've played a bunch and looked at, Battleheart Legacy. I like this a lot. I've taken inspiration from this in terms of the simplicity of combat. This is a mobile game, so it has to be simple. And you have a look at the abilities down the bottom. You just push the ability. There's not a lot of complexity to it, but it's very deep and very interesting in terms of how you can chain together your abilities, in terms of the way the enemies attack you, in terms of how your life. So rather than having a certain number of lives or a whole bunch of health potions, every single encounter you go into gives you 5 health potions, and that's it. And I think that mechanic is a really interesting mechanic. But overall, inspiration taken from this in terms of simplicity. And then Torchlight 2, I was looking at this and really liked the way the environments created a lot of mood. And you see the use of lighting. They're carrying around torches there, and the special effects when you do your abilities. It's very, a dark, moody environment. Not as dark as Diablo. It's still very lush and green in this game, but there's a lot of sparkle going on. I thought that sparkle's really interesting. It stands out, makes the world really pop. It makes the characters pop in the world, and rain coming down and stuff. So that's what I was looking for in that game, or that's what I took from that game. And that's just a little tip for you when you're starting your design and you're looking to get specific about decisions. Rather than saying, I want to make this huge, epic Skyrim type game, find what it is about Skyrim that you love and distill it down in terms of what could I put into my game. That's just an early tip for you there. Okay, so let's start writing our one-page GDD. We're going to start right at the top, and you can follow along as I go through this and write in yours if you have inspiration and if ideas come to you. We're going to start by putting a name which is going to be somewhat placeholder. It's a project name, and we've named ours Project Dragon because that sounds very RPG-ish. Seems pretty cool. I'm going to come back to the summary or the hook in a moment. I'm going to look at genre. So obviously it's an RPG. We're all making an RPG here. And for us, we've decided to make a third-person fixed camera RPG in the style of the games that I was showing you, Diablo and Torchlight 2 and Battleheart Legacy. And partially that's because when we asked our community, what would you like us to make as a course, the Diablo style old school RPG was the most popular vote. So that's what we're making. It helps us make that decision. So it's good to think at this stage, are you going to make a fixed camera or are you going to not make a fixed camera? That's a lot of what we're looking at here because RPG is pretty much decided. Target audience, we decided T for teen as our rating and our positioning. And we thought about that. Do we want to make a game that's more R-rated, more graphic, more blood and guts and swearing? We thought, no, that's not really what we're up to here. We want to make a game that you guys, no matter who you are watching this course, can appreciate as we go through it. So we didn't want to alienate people, but we also wanted to make it a little bit edgy. Controls, we'll be implementing a mouse and keyboard, as well as a controller for our game. That's up to you if you want to do that as well. You might say, well, I'm just going to do mouse and keyboard because that's what I love. Thematic setting. Okay, this is a great one. And now's a good time to go with your gut. Do you want to make a medieval type game, a fantasy type game, post-apocalyptic, steampunk type game? Do you want to make a futuristic game? What speaks to you? And I honestly believe that so long as you're not doing something really strange, there'll be a group of people out there who do like it. So if you want to make futuristic, there'll be people out there who love futuristic. For us, we're making a medieval-inspired, medieval fantasy type game. So, you know, swords, knights, dragons, all that kind of stuff. Because that's what we're interested in, and that's what our community has said, yeah, that seems pretty cool. Tech stack, the reason we're putting this here in the GDD is so that anyone who's reading this that we're collaborating with understands how we're going to go about creating this game, and so that you guys can make some early decisions and you can think about it. So pretty sure we're all going to be using Unity 5 and above. We're probably going to be using, no, we are definitely going to be using Blender for art asset creation and GIMP/Photoshop, depending upon who's working on it. And they're the main, and Audacity for our audio. Audacity. You know, in this instance, you're probably going to follow what we're following, but I want to train you guys after you've created this project, after you've been through this course, how do you do this for your next project? Platforms will be releasing to Steam. For you, you might be making this as a mobile game. You might be making it as PC, but not for Steam. You might be have aspirations to put on a console. And Game Moment. This is awesome. I'm going to get back to Game Moment in a minute. For now, I'm going to come back up to here. So I've had lots of discussions. Ben and I, we've talked about it. The game we want to make is a funny game. And I'm really a huge fan of the Monty Python style of humor. And we asked our community a little bit. And for you, your community might just be your friends or people you're part of a Facebook group as. And you say, hey, what do you think about this? For us, our game, our summary is Diablo meets Monty Python. In other words, we're saying it's a traditional third-person fixed camera action RPG, and it's funny. That's basically, so I could have just said that action RPG that's funny, but this allows us to understand on the team, or if it's just me, what the essence is I'm going for. And if you're ready, go ahead and put in an image or two that gives you context for your game, gets you excited about your game. So for me, I've got a couple of images I've found online. And at this stage, don't worry about copyright. Don't worry about whether you're allowed to use these images or not. This is all internal stuff. This is just for you to get inspiration and to see, yeah, that's what my game feels like. So I've just gone and grabbed an image of Diablo and an image of Monty Python to give my game a feel. I'm starting to feel it. That's what I want you guys to get at this stage. Nothing's locked in. Nothing's permanent. You're just getting a starting point, and from there, we're going to iterate. Okay, let's talk about Game Moment. I want to give you guys a little bit of context on this as well. when we talk about game moment, that RPG design really is a battle. It's a battle between your epic imagination and your realistic limitations. So I'm sure you've got lots of big ideas about your story, about your characters, about the environment, about enemies. But if you're a solo indie developer or you're working on a small team, there's just only so many things you can do. You have a certain amount of time, you have a certain amount of budget, and you also have a certain amount of technical skill. So it's really good at this early stage to allow your imagination to grow and to be excited, but to start with a small design. So think big, start small is what I'm saying here. The way to do that is by creating a gameplay moment, not to get distracted by the entirety of your design. So this is why I'm not starting by saying, let's write a 50-page GDD. Don't do that. I'm not starting by saying, let's go through our entire storyline. I'm not saying do that, because that's going to get you very distracted. We're starting with a gameplay moment. And for us, we've decided our gameplay moment would be combat. And a very specific combat moment where we have a guy running around, can hit enemies, there's going to be multiple enemies, and a little bit of a level flow. And the level flow is maybe 1 or 2 minutes of just going from A to B. So that's going to be our moment. That's what we're working towards. And we're not going to get distracted with inventory. We're not going to get distracted with story and dialogue. We will get to those. But first, we have to prove out our combat moment. So your gameplay moment might be as simple as running through a simple village and attacking 2 different types of enemies, defeating those enemies, and getting out of the level. That could be your moment. If you want to put more emphasis on, say, combat moves, your moment might be an arena battle where my character can do a whole bunch of cool moves and defeat a swarm of enemies. It could be your game moment. If you're not following our flow, which you don't have to, it could be a moment where you have a little bit of a mystery, where you try to solve a puzzle around your town, where you talk to a bunch of characters, they give you some clues, you might have a fight, you might not, but you have to discover the answer and maybe solve a puzzle. So that could be your game moment. At this point, focus on what you think is the most important core aspect of your game. Which leads me to the challenge part of this lecture. I want you to start your one-page GDD. If you haven't already, grab the template that I've created on Google Docs and define your high-level direction as we just did with the genre and the thematic setting, etc. So you know this is the general type of game that I'm making. And importantly, define your core moment. And that's just one sentence on what your moment is going to be. What are you building first in your development? And then I want you to go into the discussion section and share what you've created. Share your high-level direction and share your moment with the rest of the people on this course, and engage with others. You know, ask some questions, give them encouragement, get behind each other. Maybe you'll find someone who wants to collaborate at some point on a project, which would be cool as well. But this is your challenge, so I'd like you to pause the video now and jump in and complete this challenge. Okay, welcome back. I hope you did well with that challenge. Let me show you what it is that I created while you were doing that. I've worked on what the core game moment is going to be for us. Let me paste it in there. For us, for the game we're working on, 2 minutes of simple level flow, basic combat, hitting and taking damage with multiple enemy types. So it sounds very simple and very simplistic, and that's the goal at the moment. We don't want to get too many specifics in there because we want to be able to feel the game as we make it. If something seems cool, we put more work into that. If something seems interesting, if the people who are playing it like it, then we do more on it. So for now, it's fairly high level and fairly general, but it's picking a battle which is combat. That's where we're going to be putting our first bit of energy. So for now, that's enough to work with. That's a great starting point for your design. Well done on getting to this point. Now it's time for us to start getting our hands dirty in Unity. So Ben is going to get you set up and to start prototyping your RPG.